In this lesson, we'll begin adding our surrounding features in our site. Alright, so now that we have our basic bounds set for what's going to happen within our site, let's start placing some of our exterior buildings throughout. But before I do that, I want to check my line weights. So right now, how this looks is we haven't really went with any line weights or assigned any line weights. All our line weights are default. So I'm going to really quickly show you what we need to do before we start adding our exterior elements, because we don't want those to be as thick and pronounced as what's going on our site, but we definitely want them to be visible. So I'm going to really quickly go to like a plot preview real quick and kind of show you what we're working with. So when I do that, we can actually, really isn't a good view to do that. Let me back out just a little bit more so you can really understand what I'm talking about here. This should work here. So we'll go to plot, we'll go preview real quick. So what we're looking at is how this would look if we printed it with the current line weights. And again, this is more than just drawing lines and drawing features. We want it to read well. So assigning line weights is definitely going to be a good way to help us make things pop and make things less pronounced if they need to be. But how things are right now, we've got most of our lines set to our default. You can barely even tell that we did the solid hatching in between this offset here. And you can see these lines are pretty much the same, and it's not a very attractive looking image. So let's make some quick adjustments, and then we'll kind of move from there, and then we'll add our surrounding buildings. So I'll escape out of that. Really don't need to analyze that anymore. So I'm going to go to my properties here, and we'll kind of start from top and work our way down. So I have a pretty good idea of the line weights I want to use. So for the first one here, for fence, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take that down to a 0.002. And for my property line, we'll go ahead and make that the smallest. So we'll go with 0. For our center street line, I'm going to do the same thing. Go to 0 as well. And for my surrounding, we'll do the same thing. We'll go to 0. And I'll get out of this and I'll show you what we just did here. So we'll go back to that plot preview. And we'll take a look at how things are looking. So you can see that's much, much, much cleaner. And you can definitely tell that our site is a little bit more pronounced, and the border around our site is much more pronounced when we did that offset and that solid hatching between those lines, especially when you compare it to these thin lines we have for our surrounding area. And you can see it did a really good job of cleaning up our lines here. So really starting to make this look a lot better. So as we work, let's be mindful about making sure we're thinking about line weights and how this is going to turn out. So we really don't need this anymore, so I'll X out. So now that I have that done, let's go ahead and make surrounding buildings or properties our current layer, and we can start drawing those in. I have an idea of what those dimensions are going to be, or the form of those buildings. Some of them are just basic rectangles here. So we'll go ahead and get those in place. We'll draw our first building there. I'll draw my next building here on this side, which will actually have a different form. It won't be so simple. Bring this down. And it's actually two forms here. So I'm just going to copy that one and place like so. We'll highlight both of these. We'll move. And again, this process is pretty simple, but the principle, it's really about the principle. You want to include any surrounding elements within your site. So we'll add a couple of more here. So I'll say 20 feet, say 10 feet. I'll make it another 10 there. And we'll bring it up here, going 10 feet. This one's just a real basic footprint of a home here. And we'll close that out. And it looks like I can probably adjust this just a tad. And I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to mirror this one. So we'll go select it. We'll mirror it. Use this as our axis. We'll shoot that over. Type in no. We'll keep that other one. And we'll give myself another rectangle here. So I'll copy this one as well. So it's very easy. You just got to go with a real basic form, just showing what's surrounding our area here. So again, I'm going to highlight these guys, and I'm going to keep it simple. Copy those, and we'll bring those down here. as well. So now we have our surrounding buildings in place, and we've also made some adjustments to our line weights to make this read just a little bit better. So now that we have all these in place, now we can start adding some of the existing features onto our site, which will include our driveway, any curb cuts here that are going to need to be shown, and we'll also start adding some landscape, and we'll do all this in the next lesson. So I'll see you there.